Hello, everyone. I'm really happy to have with me today Stefano Moric, Head of Geopolitics at KPMG International. Stefano, welcome to Romania.
Thank you so much, Madeleine. It's great to be here.
Yeah, I know it's your first time in Romania. What's your first impression?
Oh, I feel like I'm in family. I grew up in Italy. We share the same Latin roots. It's very much homely and comfortable. And I'm very impressed by the organization. I'd say even better than Italy, but don't publicize this too much with my friends back there.
We won't. So thank you very much for accepting to be here with us these days. You work a lot on and you oversee somehow what is going on across the world in terms of geopolitics. I would like to ask you, what do you see these days? What are the biggest 2-3 trends that impact the business globally?
I think that's a key question, Madeleine, and I think business leaders need to try to step back from the chaos of the media cycle and really look at what matters for the long term. Mm-hmm. And I think there is one structural change in geopolitics that is driving business changes. Mm-hmm. And the structural change in geopolitics is that what we call a geopolitical recession. We have a lack of effective political leadership. Some people used to say there's a G7, there's a G20, there's the BRICS. In reality, it's a bit more of a G0 in the words of our friends and partners at the Eurasia Group. As no one can effectively provide enough stable political, military, and economic leadership at the international level. So there's more competition in the system. Mm-hmm. And this competition is driving a lot of volatility, fragmentation, and unfortunately also conflict. So that's it. So this geopolitical recession is causing three main things for the business environments. One is endemic increase in conflict, which complicates the operational environment, whether it's supply chains, failures, whether it is cybersecurity concerns, whether it is just the physical resilience of the infrastructure that underpin any business operation, undersea internet cables or others. And that's here to stay, this rise of conflict. We have more conflict today than any time since the end of World War II. Yeah. Number two is that this increased geopolitical competition is driving a fragmentation of global trade. Global trade is slowing down for the first time since 1945. It's not the end of globalization, but there is a restructuring globalization that is following less of an economic efficiency logic and more of a resilience and national interest logic. All well and good. There's a lot of opportunities, a lot of industrial policies, subsidies, measures to intervene in the shape and scope of trade. But it is also inflationary, it's distortive, and it requires more active management. And then number three, we have technological competition, particularly between the US and China, but it's broader than that. And technology is the key opportunity of our century. It will provide a lot of the solutions to all of these external pressures. But even here, geopolitics is playing a role, and countries and companies have to understand how this competition is playing out and whether we are moving towards a technology cold war with two technological stacks, and countries and companies having to decide where they want to play. I think that's where we're going, and it's something really important to keep track of.
Yeah, that's very interesting, and it really looks, very complex and a bit scary, if I may say so. But on the other hand, as you said, there are a lot of opportunities, especially for businesses and for leaders who have the vision, the direction, and the ambition in a way to navigate all these complexity. But taking it from a global level to a more European and maybe Central and Eastern Europe region perspective, where do you see Europe can actually fit in this complicated world? And what is the role that CE could have, for example?
So if I focus on the business opportunities, the global geopolitical changes that bring into the region, I think number one is understanding where capital is moving. So there's a big opportunity, obviously, in defense and national security. A lot of money, public spending, but also private capital going into not just the defense and military, which unfortunately globally we see historical high level of military expenditure, about $3 trillion US dollars. But it's also the infrastructure that goes with building resilience and security in societies, whether it's IT infrastructure, whether it is ports, transport, airports. So there's a lot of capital that's going to go in that, in building the resilience of societies. And then, of course, we also see a lot of opportunities in cost optimization. In a world that is fragmenting, where there's more regulatory compliance, the cost of trade is increasing because of supply chain issues, trade choke points, or just tariffs and competition between countries. There is an opportunity for companies to look at their own patch and try to build efficiencies and try to expedite regulatory compliance by the use of technology, digital transformation, and others. So it's important, as you say, to keep track of this. Another thing, I guess, is energy. There is a whole restructuring of energy markets, energy supply chains, as a consequence of both the conflicts in Ukraine and the conflict now in the Middle East, that closed the Strait of Hormuz, a third of global energy. Of course, now we have a diplomatic pause. We see the potential for the gradual reopening. Markets are rallying around that. But there's a lesson that has been learned now here, that we need more optionality and redundancy in energy systems. And I think in Eastern Europe, there's a lot of stuff that can happen, particularly in Romania. We're one of the few countries in Europe that actually produces energy, not just imports energy. So that helps reducing dependencies, creating resilience. But it's also then moving beyond, maybe even faster, onto alternative energies, clean energies, renewables, yes, but also nuclear. Anything really that helps with this now geopolitical imperative to reduce the dependencies from parts of the world or supply chains that are considered potential vulnerabilities.
So basically, what you're saying, or what I get from what you're saying, is that Romania has, in a way, a certain privilege with its position, resources, and so on. However, talent. But then we still have a long way to go, probably to, play the role that we should play in the region and in Europe. And in this context, for businesses in Romania, what do you think are, maybe the biggest 3 priorities companies or local companies should focus on?
I think, number one is try to elevate geopolitical thinking at the board level. So it's no longer, geopolitics is not something that is relegated to, your risk register, just one standalone item. I think you need to have a lens through these trends, analyze how these trends are impacting your strategy, your market expansion strategy, your input costs, your technology strategy. And it's not about predicting the future. That's impossible. Nobody has a crystal ball. If they tell you they do, you have to kick them out of the room. But it's important to start thinking about scenarios. It's not predicting the future. It's thinking about different possible futures and be ready for everything. So that, it takes a little bit more time and effort and cost, but it's becoming an imperative. And then the other area where I think we should have a laser focus, just because of the external environment, particularly in this area, is obviously cybersecurity. Globally, cybercrime has almost doubled over the last 3 years. The cost of cybercrime was estimated at $10 trillion in 2025, and that's likely to increase. And that is a very, very essential business risk area that requires laser focus, attention, and resources. And it's traditional cybersecurity, but is also thinking about the evolution of hybrid warfare, drone warfare, and the likelihood of potential disruptions to the critical infrastructure that underpin IT systems and other business operations. So that laser focus on security and cybersecurity is key.
That's very interesting. And, I think that we at KPMG, we can support clients in all these areas, also in bringing, geopolitical topics into the boardrooms. I think you do this and we do this for our clients. And I think that's extremely useful. And cybersecurity is, again, something that we've been investing in the last 15, 20 years. But we see that companies need to be more resilient and more focused on these topics, because they can affect basically the survival of one business or another. Stefano, thank you very much for being here, and we look forward to seeing you back in Romania soon.
My absolute pleasure. I would love to come back.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madalena.